All right, guys, how we doing? It's lyric review day, so my favorite day. Um, Again, hate, love. That's the concept today. The story that we're gonna go over, and I guess I want to just real quick take a backtrack or step back and say, um, this the music, and you'll see once I actually release it, the AI, what AI created, it's got like a real jazz room kind of feel to it, and so when I say it's not music that I listen to all the time, or it wasn't my favorite, or what I can't remember exactly what I said. You can go check that video, but I I also want to I'll go out to jazz room music, and in fact I actually bought a CD once when me and my wife went out to one of the shows, and so there's nights that I enjoy music or enjoy that type of music, or any moods that I'll get into and enjoy that kind of music. So I just wanted to make sure I don't want it to come across like I don't like that music or whatever. I just don't listen to it all the time, obviously. But there's certain nights you go out and you enjoy a night out, and then you hear music, and it kind of brings the atmosphere together. And so, especially like a jazz room, when you kind of go out to that atmosphere, not something I might listen to every single day, but just kind of wanted to put that out there because I kind of listened back to that, and I was like, well, I don't want it to come across like I just didn't like it or whatever. Just something that I don't listen to all the time. But anyways, with that said, uh, the way that this is presented, and I'll show you guys the lyrics. This is actually kind of funny. I write all my lyrics out if you haven't noticed. I I haven't gotten comfortable putting them into like the phone or writing them on the phone. I know a lot of people do that, but right now I've always, not right now, I've always written them on paper, and I'll continue to do even when I do actually, if I do go to the studio or something like that, and lay down like a hip hop track or something. I'll have it on paper, and I'll have my paper and hanging up or however whatever, but I'll be looking at my notes and my lyrics as I took them. Um, and so you'll see, like in this case, this one actually was on an envelope. So started the idea where I was in a position that I didn't have a notebook and then my normal kind of setup, and so um, and obviously feelings and thoughts and ideas come to you, and to be quite honest, I I if I don't write it down, I'll end up forgetting it, and I won't remember it. And so, the first part came on an envelope, and then the next part came on just some corporate paper or whatever. So, um, quite funny how kind of this one kind of came together, and where it all came from. But we're gonna start from the angle of hate, and talk about that emotion, and like I said, the idea of this to me is how similar they are in I guess kind of like the reactions that they create, and the power behind them, and when you love somebody, the things that you'll do for them when you love somebody, and when you hate somebody, the things that you kind of want to do or maybe even hope happens to them, whatever the case may be. But just that, the rawness of both of those emotions, and how powerful, and again, to me, yet how similar they are in the ways that they drive somebody. Um, and so, to kind of introduce the hate side of it, so hate is such a funny thing. All the ways it makes you change. It stains your brain and keeps it caged until you can't and release the rage. You lose yourself inside the maze, sitting stuck inside for days. It's getting rough, and so you pray, but nothing ever goes your way. And so that's kind of the first chorus, and that again. So all the ways it makes you change. It stains your brain and keeps it caged until you can't and release the rage. And so, it changes you. It makes you do things that you wouldn't normally do, and some things ultimately that you regret and can't possibly and possibly can't take back. So you lose yourself inside the maze, sitting stuck inside for days. It's getting rough, and so you pray, but nothing ever goes your way. And so it's just like, oh, I can't get out of this. It's like you're stuck in that rut. And so we come into the pre-chorus, and this is where they connect. Slightly different language, but you'll see this is where they connect. So now you look back and start to think, what's the root of all the pain? Then you notice something strange. Instead of black and white, everything is gray. All the lines are fuzzy and none of them are straight. So that's kind of the pre-chorus where it's kind of like, okay, wait a minute, you start to come back to reality almost, and it's like, wait, that wasn't me, that was my emotions that were driving me in that situation. And so the chorus comes in: hate is such a funny thing, all the ways it makes you change, so much so if you met yourself you'd think you're strange. And so again, it's that's not me. You almost, like, people sometimes say, they even get into those moments where they were filled with so much rage they blacked out, and it's like they literally did leave reality, and that power behind that emotion brought them into a state that they can't even control themselves. And I would say the same again kind of goes for love. And so now coming over to that side, you know, so here's the second verse and the second side of the story. Love is such a funny thing. You lose control, it takes the reins. Now you're numb to all the pain, pulling rugs to cover stains. Though the truths, yeah, they remain. It's the excuses that you change. The sun fades and turns to rain, and washed away that pretty paint. So again, love, you in a situation where you've fallen in love, if that love maybe gets tarnished a little bit or is not the same as it was once, when it started, it's funny how your brain tricks yourself into thinking, well, no, it's not really what it is. Or what, like it says, you lose control, it takes the reins. You're numb, now you're numb to all the pain. You're pulling rugs to cover stains. So it's kind of like, though the truths, yeah, they remain. It's the excuses that change. So it's like, the truths are still there. The what's beneath that love, what those stains are there. You can't change those stains. So it's the excuses that change. It's like, oh well, this happened or that happened or this is why. And so, again, you've fallen in love and you find yourself kind of normally where you had your guard up and your barriers, and these are my walls, or these are my must-haves type thing. It's kind of like, well, that love kind of starts to fall in, and it's like, well, maybe I can accept that, and then it starts to kind of become a slippery slope. And so now we go back into the chorus. So now you look back and start to think, what's the reasons for the games? Then you notice something strange. Instead of black and white, everything is gray. All the lines are fuzzy, none of them are straight. So again, this one is, now you look back and start to think, what's the reasons for the games? And then the other one is, now you look back and start to think, what's the root of all the pain? So it's again, then we come into the same chorus basically. Love is such a funny thing, all the ways it makes you change, so much so if you met yourself you'd think you're strange. And so again, you know from an outsider's view, looking in, and that's kind of why it's always good sometimes, they say, to have that, that friend's perspective, or open up and stuff, because you become blind, whether you're blind by hate or you're blind by love. To me, it's ultimately the same. You're blind by an emotion that is so powerful, it drives you to do things that you potentially would have never done, never even possibly thought of doing. But that emotion takes you to places sometimes, you know bright and beautiful, and better than you ever thought could imagine. And sometimes it's down to the darkest, just grim places that you could ever imagine. And so, um so stay tuned. The lyrics and the song, the tune will come out later this week, or like I said, I'll release snippets. But like I said, this one, to me, I really enjoyed putting this one together. I think, the message behind it, the story behind it, I really enjoyed it, and I really had a fun time, expressing this one out. And so hopefully you guys get that same enjoyment. And then again, stay tuned. The music will be coming in the next few days. I'll release some snippets and then full song on Friday. All right, guys, enjoy the week. Thanks.